Welcome to the STEM Road Podcast. I'm Jerry Cabrera, President and CEO of Elevate Southwest, and this podcast host. In each episode, we'll talk with an industry expert who shares their career experiences and insights, and we'll also introduce a student who is starting their own journey in the same or similar field, providing a fresh perspective on the future of the industry. Our mission is to uncover the diverse pathways to success in post-secondary education, providing inspiration and guidance for anyone interested in STEM careers. So join us in the STEM Road as we explore the remarkable journeys of those paving the way and elevating the future of STEM. Welcome to the STEM Road Podcast. My name is Jerry Cabrera, and we have
Melina Conroy.
And welcome to season 2 of our podcast, the STEM Road Podcast. Please join us, and we have 2 special guests. We always have a special guest. We have Chris Thompson from
Thompson Design Architects here in Yuma.
And we have Connor.
I'm a student at NAU, Connor Legros.
There we go. So, one thing is, as we finished our season and we're looking at different type of careers and professions, it popped our mind that one thing that we haven't touched upon is architectural.
Okay.
And how that evolves around all these engineering things that are happening here in the region. So we want to kind of touch bases on that as well. But before we do that, I want to learn a little bit more about both of you, the good stuff, obviously, right? The fun facts. And earlier today, I was speaking with Chris and asking him about his law firm. I was going to say architectural firm.
Yep.
And I remember that firm from a long time ago of a lot of the stuff that was going on. But fill us in on what's going on with Thompson Architects.
Sure, love to. Thompson Design Architects started originally. I purchased the firm from Barry Patterson, longtime local Yuma architect, and so came back to Yuma, started working for Barry, and then he was looking to retire and looking to have somebody take over. His boys knew wiser, so they went on to different careers. So he offered it to me, and it's a great opportunity. In fact, interesting fun fact here is the building that we're in right now was Barry's first building that he designed when he went out on his own.
Oh, wow.
And right across the street is the law firm across the street was my first building that I designed when I started with Barry. So both our first buildings are right across the street from each other.
Wow.
Kind of fun.
We're here in
is a fun
downtown.
fact.
Just to give you a heads up, we're downtown Yuma, so
Yeah.
that's a fun fact.
One of my favorite areas of Yuma. There's so much character down here.
All right.
Yeah, so it's fun you kind of see both, and it's just kind of a fun fact for me. But I've owned the firm myself since 2010, and we've been fortunate enough to have clients that trust us with their projects and keep us going. So we're doing what I think is good work, and people keep hiring us. So until they stop hiring us, we'll keep going.
School,
as we do.
County, city. I mean,
we
all
kind
over
of do
town.
it all. We don't do a whole lot of residential.
Yeah.
I've done residential for friends and things, but I've seen residential design almost cause divorces. So we'll stick to commercial and institutional work. So
that's
city
great.
buildings, commercial buildings, doctors' offices, done work for just about all the medical facilities in town. AWC is a great client of ours, and City of Yuma County. So
Yes.
we're kind of all over the place here in Yuma.
Oh, great.
And you grew up here in Yuma, is that correct?
Yes. So grew up here in Yuma, was here till about the 4th grade, and then my dad, who was in banking, took a position in Tucson, so we moved to Tucson. And then I was in Tucson through high school, and then my family moved back to Yuma, and I went on to serve a mission for my church, and when I got back, decided to go back to the U of A and get my architecture degree. So, and then once I had that, Barry made his offer to have me come back to Yuma, and said, let's do it.
So the big question here, what year did you graduate?
From high school?
Yeah, because you graduated here from high school,
No,
right?
in
No,
Tucson.
in Tucson.
In Tucson, okay.
A high school named Canyon Del Oro, CDO,
Okay.
in Tucson, and that was in 95.
95? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Youngster. It's a youngster. Talking about Arizona Western College that you mentioned, we have Connor Legros here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Connor, I know that when we started the internship with you, we actually had you work at Chris Thompson's place. But tell us about a little bit about yourself and why we went with Chris's architectural firm.
All right, so hello, I'm Connor. I'm currently majoring in geography, environment, and society with a minor in public administration. And I recently just found out I was accepted to graduate school, which was my big surprise. But I figured I'd go with Chris because when I had an internship with the city of Yuma before in high school, we had found out we were looking at all sorts of plans for buildings and all sorts of stuff. And I didn't know about Chris's firm before, but the complexities of the planning world and how you need to know the architectural background of some of these places and what the thinking goes into these sort of developments is something I was looking forward to in the future as my job. So I wanted to see what the whole architectural world was all about. So that's why I joined with Chris.
Yeah, when Connor came up and we opened up the internship, he was one of the very first ones actually that I think you were the first one that we put out there, I believe.
I think the second,
Second?
but yes.
Okay.
But it was
First one was
very-
him.
My right mind always reminds me. And so he was trying to look at engineering first, and then and that was why we spoke to Chris. And Chris, obviously always a great partner. And the discussion was, well, he wants some sort of engineer. We don't know which one, but let's see what happens with Chris, because you do all types of you work with engineers,
Yes.
and you see all their drawings.
Yes.
And I think that would have been the perfect segue. Just find out what you really wanted. That's why we chose Chris. Obviously, other than a great guy, great person to our community. So that was the number one that put the reason why we put you there. But it's been a great honor to have you there. And now moving on for us is one of those successes, not only for the firm but obviously for a student that's now going to graduate. And where are you going to go into graduate school?
So I'm going to Northern Arizona University for my graduate school as well. I'm doing an accelerated program, so it's only 30 credits, and I'm actually about to find out how much I have to do. So I don't know how fun that will be, but we'll see. But I'm also expected to graduate with my undergraduate this fall in 2025.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's
Great.
exciting.
A fun fact. So Chris did our conceptual drawings for the Innovation Hub. That's moving forward, and we'll give you more information on that. But Connor did some of those renderings on video, on a 3D
Yes.
model. Oh, that was awesome. So that actually is part of the video, Chris, that we put out there.
Yeah.
His drawings, your conceptual drawings, but he put on 3D.
Yep.
And that was actually pretty neat that now it's nationally, globally, that people can see your work too.
Yeah.
Of course.
And now it's on every job page.
Yeah, there we go.
And so, talking about where Connor's at right now and kind of still, where he was figuring out what path, or what kind of career path he's looking to take. I'm curious what kind of inspired you in your career path, and how did you lead to, going into architecture?
Well, I knew I wanted to be an architect from the time I was young, and I hope this isn't too anticlimactic, but it was actually Mike Brady from the Brady Bunch. So
okay.
He was an architect. Something people don't remember a lot about the show, but I watched TV. I love TV to this day. So I saw this guy who got to sometimes work from home, and he got to build models, and he got to draw. He had a drawing board down in the basement, and sometimes he'd stay up late and get worried about a presentation he had coming up. But even at a young age, I saw that he was meeting with what seemed like important people and making big time decisions and all these things. And it wasn't lost on me that this guy could afford a home in Southern California with, 10 people or so that lived in the house. So I started looking into architecture. I loved building models, drawing, all of that. And so architecture, I learned when I dug into it a little bit, I learned that you get to kind of do all that. So your projects start as a napkin sketch and then move to a model. We used to do physical models. Now we do three-dimensional computer rendered models like Connor worked on. And then eventually you get to build it and walk around in it and add something to the streetscape and the community. It's exciting. But that was it for me. I once I learned that, I was I was sold. That's what I want to do.
Oh wow! So you must have watched that episode where he actually drew I believe like an ice cream because Gigi Gabor had wanted some sort of ice cream type thing.
Yeah.
I remember that episode.
Yeah.
That is what actually drew you to architect. I'm sure.
Yes, actually it was. Yeah. So
Do you remember that episode, Connor?
No, I'm too young.
Neither do I. Okay.
Brady Bunch is
my
before
time.
Connor's time. It was before my time, but we'd
not the
watch
only
that,
one.
and it would Gomer Pyle and Leave It to Beaver,
Of course.
and all those oldies would show, and I was like, man, that architecture job looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you shared a lot about the cool aspects and exciting aspects about architecture, but I'm sure that along your career and this path that you've gone on, it hasn't always been easy, and I'm sure there's been a good set of challenges. So something that we really like to highlight in our podcast is to, especially for the listeners that are still trying to figure out, and maybe it seems too difficult or unattainable because of those hurdles or those challenges. I'd always like to get your perspective and hear about maybe what were some of those challenges for you and how did you overcome them?
Well, absolutely. Design there's no one solution to any design problem. And so in school, which Connor's in right now, you'll present and maybe that presentation doesn't always go well, or maybe they don't choose your project, or maybe they don't choose you. And so there's a certain part of my job that's a little bit of salesmanship, a little bit of pitching, and stuff like that. And you don't always get picked, So those are sometimes hard to deal with, to not take it personally, and those are struggles that you're not going to get everything. As good as you think you are, maybe you're not as good as you think you are sometimes. And so those are, it's an easy career to help you feel humble, because you're not going to get them all.
So how many times, and this is really important, how many times did you fail?
The success rate for when you go after a project's probably, you're happy if it's in maybe the 25%. So you might go after 4 projects and land one of them, and you feel pretty good. But that means there's 3 projects out there that you didn't get, or somebody chose somebody else, or those types of things. So those are always hard blows. You know, sometimes you do better than that, but sometimes you do worse. So
Exactly.
you got to just keep going. Pick yourself up. And fortunately for us, we live in a place that is constantly developing and growing and building, and so we get a lot of opportunities. But when I purchased the firm in 2010 from Barry, as everyone remembers, that's when kind of the spigot shut off. There was the economy tanked, everything came to a grinding halt, and that first year of ownership of the building was real rough. It was real rough. In fact, I was worried I wasn't going to be able to make my first payment to purchase, the buyout, and so I was real worried. Didn't pay myself for 7 months, lived on savings just to keep the lights on. And you'll go through times like that, is what it taught me. But fortunately there was a local guy, Joe Fisher, that was building a new car dealership, and he took a shot on a brand new architect and hired me. And I think I collected the check for that work December 20th. And was able to make my payment to Barry January 1st. And the rest is history. That little bump of that project, got me enough to get me going. And then another project came in the door, and then another and another. So, but that first year was a struggle.
Yeah.
You're not going to just walk in, and it's not guaranteed. The success is not guaranteed in this business.
Yeah.
Connor, what have you were at Chris's place for how many months?
For about 3.
3 months. What did you learn at Chris's place, other than, obviously, because you do have to do a lot of other than just drawing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what else did you learn on that aspect of the business, not only the business, but the architectural portion of it?
As for context, I had no knowledge of this subject before I got into it, so I had a massive brain-splitting headache on the first week of trying to just learn everything. But there's so much to learn in this career field, where you basically have to figure out not only just the physical aspect of what this development's going on, but how to lay out it and lay the place out digitally, how to think of all of the engineering aspects, the aesthetic value, the use of the project. It's just so much to learn, and you're it never stop learning about something, because it's almost like a constant reality check about what do you actually know about this sort of field or project or development, or even just the people you interact with on every single day. It's not just learning about the project, but learning about the people around our community too.
So for other listeners out there that also might not have any background knowledge on what architects do, what the day in the life of an architect looks like, Chris, can you give us some insights
Sure.
onto what a typical day as an architect looks like?
It's a challenging career. Sometimes when I walk in, I have a plan of what I'm going to do that day, and I'm lucky if I get anywhere close to that, because somebody may walk in the door. You might get a call to go to a job site. You might get a call about a new project, and so you got to shift gears real quick a lot. But typically, what the architect does is, the best analogy I can use when I've done kind of career days and things for school is, the architect's similar to a quarterback. So he's typically developing the parameters of the project, the envelope, so to speak. And then we work with a team of engineers, like you mentioned, structural, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, civil, that help us kind of bring that envelope to reality. We'll kind of develop a plan of the building, a floor plan, a basic floor plan, and then we'll talk to the mechanical engineer about the best way to run the air conditioning systems, and we'll talk to the structural engineer about the best way to span a certain distance, and we'll talk to the civil engineer about the best way to bring the sewer to the building. And so you're constantly folding these people into your project, and like Connor says, you're constantly working with people all day. You're rarely just putting your headphones on and drawing. You're coordinating. You're talking to the structural engineer. They're coming by the office, and Connor worked at our conference table. So we were constantly asking Connor to scoot over because an engineer might be coming in.
Basically the front desk assistant.
Right. So we might sit down with the structural engineer, kind of get him on the same page with us as our vision, and then he goes to work on his structural layout, and same with the mechanical and the electrical. And so you're constantly kind of taking this thing, which is a napkin sketch, and then form it into some kind of clay, and then turn it into cement. And it's just all along the way you're pushing and pulling all these other people with you. And like I said, it's exciting, it's challenging, it's fun. It can be frustrating, sure, but everybody's job is, I'm sure, at some point. But it's a great job. I can't imagine myself doing anything else.
Yeah.
And it's funny because every time I would ask Chris, like, what are we doing today? And I'm always confused, like, man, I never know what we're going to do, but it's just the nature of the work. It's like, you can't put a pin to what you're planning to do because there's always something else that comes up.
Well, in any given day, we might be working on, touching base with, or touching, 8 to 12 different projects at different stages. Some might be in early design, some might be late in construction, and we're visiting a construction site. And so you're kind of all over the place. But I have good people, so we kind of break it down, and everybody's got their projects that they're kind of looking at, and so we're able to tackle all those different, everybody coming at you from different sides. We're able to manage that. But we think it's an exciting place to work. I think Connor fit in well and had a good time, I think.
Yeah, he did.
I was never bored.
Always
For
something
good
going
or
on.
worse.
Always something going on.
I'm curious because I know you've mentioned, part of the job is also, how to talk to people and your social skills and giving a pitch. Did you obtain those? Would you say that you've learned those skills in your school or in your education journey, or was that afterwards? And maybe where did you improve those skills? Like, how would you recommend? What would you recommend?
Sure,
students?
and I'm probably a good example. I was a pretty shy kid. I didn't like to be out in front growing up, and then serving a mission for my church. You have to go door to door and maybe present and talk to people and learn to read people and understand them. And same with architecture. A client might come in, they might be a lawyer or a dentist or a doctor or a school district looking for a new school. That they don't design buildings. They don't, in some cases, don't know the first thing about it. So you're kind of walking them through the process. They're hiring you to be their liaison and agent throughout the project. So you're kind of guiding them along in something that they might not understand. So you have to explain it in ways that they'll understand, and it's you're constantly dealing with people. You're constantly talking to people. So just on the job, if you want to be successful, you need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to explain yourself. If you have the greatest idea in the world, but I can't show it to you and communicate it to you, then it's like the idea never existed. So we use all kinds of tools to do that, 3D renderings and drawings and all of that. But it all boils down at the end of the day to people. People are going to be living and working in the building. People are going to be building the building. People are going to be drawing the building. So you I like to think of myself a little bit like a people person. And you need to understand people and kind of figure out, it's my job to figure out what's important to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Connor, obviously you told us a little bit about yourself and what got you into this, but what would you recommend, obviously, to a student who wants to go into this field? Obviously, I'm going to have you answer that question as well, but I want to hear from the student's perspective how a high school student or a college student that's barely beginning to go about into this field.
Mm-hmm. So if you're interested in the planning, the architectural, or even just the idea of why is my community built the way it is the fundamental idea of why I even got into this subject. And it's been something that's been through my entire life about why are they putting this here, or why is that going around, or why are they building this way? And it's just something that's always piqued my interest about how can, because you see the problems around the community and you wonder, how can I do something to make it better? And I think this is one of the best ways to do it, because some of these problems stem from just the planning of how the city's laid out, or just the natural way of things of how a city is created, and just if you want to see how to make the city more, I don't know, more efficient, or more aesthetically pleasing, or you just have an idea of a vision for what your community should be and how you want it to be, I think this is the best field to go into, because it's one of the main places where you have a very big stake into what is created, how it's planned out, and what you want your vision to be.
Just to follow up on that, I know you mentioned earlier that when you started your internship, you had really no background on kind of architectural design. How did the internship and getting this experience shape or maybe reaffirm certain things that you were maybe still worried or thinking about for your own career? Has it helped guide you or to kind of a more specific career path for you, or has it changed at all?
It's kind of interesting because I'm still kind of unclear about what I want to do. I mean, our internship was very informative and it was very fun, but it's just very complex. So it's and you have to find a niche, because most people already do this this field. So you have to see do I want to do special projects for a city? Do I want to do something for a private firm? I'm still unsure, but having the knowledge for it means I can be a jack of all trades and walk into an organization and say, well, I have X, Y, and Z things, but are you doing something I want to do?
Yeah, I think getting exposure, as much as exposure as possible, is really important, especially when you're young and you're unsure of what your niche is going to be, or what's your specific career path. I think we can probably, at least most people, admit that at some point in our lives, when we were 18, 19, we didn't know, we couldn't. It's a tough decision to make, especially at a young age. So. I always tell people, don't be hard on yourself. Expose yourself, get experience, reach out, and all of that will help. And maybe you realize, okay, this is not the career path for me. Maybe I don't want to be an architect. No offense, but maybe that was, and that's okay, right? I think getting experience, though, is still just so insightful for anyone that's still trying to figure out.
And that's the reason why we have these internships. Is not necessarily, yes, we want you to succeed in any way, shape, or form in a STEM career. But if that career that you were exposed to is not for you, it's okay to say, you know what, this is not for me, and I'd rather go to another path. And we'd rather see that than for you to stop going to school or college and not get some sort of career or some sort of degree. And for us, that's a success.
And if I can piggyback on that, so several of the people that I went to architecture school with, fewer became architects than became other things. But the architecture program, the architecture interest exposed them to other aspects of design. I have friends that design zoo exhibits. I have friends that design movie sets. I have friends that curate museums. I have friends that went to work for city administrations in the planning planning department and those types of things. But had they not gone to architecture school, that might not have opened the door to them to do something that they've gone on to do that they love. It's not architecture, but architecture exposed them to that. So Connor may not choose to go into architecture, but there may be some facet of what I do that triggers something in him that he wants to go into planning or go in, like you talked about, or go into work for a city and helping them develop, where certain parts of the city need to grow and how should they grow. And so there may be something that he touches in my office that triggers something in him that he can use. So it's good that if you're interested in a subject like architecture, that you ask, that you stop in, that you check it out, because it may not be what you ultimately do, but it may be a piece of what you do.
That's excellent advice, and I really appreciate that, because our listeners out there are trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And we have several interns as well that are trying to figure this out, and this definitely makes sense for many of the folks to say it's okay.
Yeah.
It's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's just a part of life.
And for a lot of them, it really reaffirms like, oh yeah, this is the career path for me. I mean, I know right now we have an intern with you as well.
Yes, we do.
Juan Andres. And, I've asked him, when I met with him, he's like, I want to be an architect. And I was like, okay, we have a great partner. We have a great partner that
We'll
we
see
can.
if he still wants to be.
Well, so far he's
loving it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so far
he is.
he tells me, oh yeah, he's really loving it. And he's, really kind of, it's reaffirmed his decision
he's
of what
currently,
he wants to do.
as we speak, he's out on a job site right now doing some measuring, and then he'll come back to the office and draft up the plan. And I work with him to, develop some concepts, let him try to spread his design wings a little bit. Why don't you sketch something out, and we'll take a look at it. So again, and Connor did some of that in the office. So what I do isn't what every architect does, and what we do in the office isn't what every architecture firm does. But if somebody's interested in the process, and that's what Connor had. Connor was interested in the process. I want to know how this gets done. It's good. It's good for you. It's good for you to be exposed to that. Yeah.
So, you have any questions for us for Elevate Southwest and the team, or Elevate, or even for yourselves? Do you have any questions?
Connor?
The only thing I just want to ask about is the Innovation Hub, because that's the main project I loved.
It's an exciting project. So yeah, we'd love to hear kind of what you've accomplished, and I know it's been fantastic so far, and kind of what are the next steps?
Well, right now we're actually looking at the cost. We already saw the cost itself, but now we're looking at which way to go, if it's going to be P3, a public-private partnership. We're still looking at what the city is going to want to do, because it is in their property. We're looking at the bank and other type of funding mechanisms that we'll be able to secure to make this first project, where we have not only ag industry in there. There may be some small manufacturing. The Yuma Spaceport will end up going in there as well. Some clean energy as well. So all these aspects are part of the pillars, which is aerospace and defense, ag, clean energy, and one other area is biotech, biomedicine. And within those areas, we're looking at obviously logistics and artificial intelligence, and the main focus is workforce. That's part of the pillars, but those three areas kind of put everything together, ties everything together. So that's where we're at this point. Once we get the funding, which we're really close at, then we'll get more information, but we still need to have the green light from the city, because that's, like I mentioned before, it's part of their property. So we're closer to what was 2 years ago, and we're closer than it was 13 years ago.
And the ultimate goal is to get these businesses here.
The ultimate
and then
goal,
get people
yes.
like Connor to get exposure to those, and then come back.
So
stay in Yuma.
So the research and development area, which is not only just the innovation hub, it's basically the whole area within about 65 acres. It's everything that has to do with research and development in order to attract the workforce, and not only the current workforce, but workforce that's coming down. from different types of the area that we're looking for in aerospace and defense. We have approximately 700 folks from MCAS that retire or leave, and we want them to stay. And if we have a location for them to stay here doing the stuff that they love, which is aerospace and defense, this is a perfect segue for them to stay here in the Yuma area and expose them to that area, not only for themselves but also for the kids. So it's about expanding those type of resources and programs here in the Yuma region. For yourself, not to leave the Yuma area, but also have the resources here from the university, so you can actually have your degree here in architecture or engineering, chemical or math or engineering or what have you, even IT. This is ultimately what we want. We don't have a full-blown university. We have the satellites, but now with online classes, it's making a little bit more availability for everyone.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why I am so supportive of Elevate Southwest's mission and the project. Not only because I think it can be beautiful, and Connor helped us, demonstrate how beautiful it can be, but is the idea that Yuma can grow and can develop and be a hub for these burgeoning technologies that are out there. You don't have to leave to bigger cities like Phoenix and San Diego. At one point, those cities were our size.
Exactly.
And then those industries came and they found a home there and took root. And then engineers come and work and then buy homes and then invest and develop. And their kids go to school. So now we need more schools. And so it all creates this growth that's so important to all of us, because you can only go in two directions. You're either growing or you're not.
Exactly. It's more the economic development. It's about economics at the end of the day, and that's where many of different type of organizations, different companies look at. They look at the demographics and making sure that we're growing. We have the workforce in certain skills, and so we want to develop those work skills for that specific industry. So that's what we definitely want at the end of the day.
Forgive me for my pun here, but I like to say we're elevating our community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the prevailing view of why I joined Elevate, was because the view of most students in high school, I believe, was that you have to move out of Yuma to have any sort of potential or opportunity. And I'm like, that's a shame, because our community has so much to offer, but the reality states that, there's not much here. So what do you do about it? And that's why I'm like, that's why I need to go into architecture and planning to see what can I do to make this place better, so people want to come here and not. I want it to be a destination, not the place you're coming from for why you're going somewhere.
Not a pit stop anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
No more stepping stone.
And I know we're wrapping up, but I always like to know it's an evolving, world, and every industry is always adapting and changing, and there's new things and there's new innovation. And that's something that we promote and encourage a lot here at Elevate Southwest. What are some exciting things that you notice that are changing within the architecture, kind of industry that you're excited about?
Yeah, so I've seen it just in my short career. I've seen vast leaps in how quickly we can create, and then share that, communicate that to you through three-dimensional software programs, where you're not only designing, but you're also producing the construction documents that. So you can simultaneously design and produce the construction documents, which allows you to work more efficiently, more quickly, create more within the given hours of the day that you have, is important to us. Owners want their projects now. They all want them as fast as possible. So all these technologies help us do that. You still need people. You still need people to provide those sparks of idea and prompts and all of these things. And when Connor was in the office, we played with AI, giving it prompts and letting it develop some architecture. And it's good at that, but you still need those people. But it allows us as people to work so much more efficiently, so much more quickly, and then communicate that to people that may not be able to read plans or be able to see that vision. And so we're able to do that. But just the technology advancements are exciting. We just one of my staff just recently went to a trade show in Vegas and saw kind of what's coming next, and it's exciting about how quickly you can get from an idea to almost what looks like a finished product real fast. And so all of that, we've got our eye on all of that stuff. We're always trying to find ways to be better and faster and quicker,
course.
and more efficient. So yeah, it's
Right,
exciting.
I mean, best of luck, Connor, on your. I know you're going to be graduating at the end of this year, right? And then going on to graduate school. We hope that one day you'll come back to your hometown, to all of our hometown, right? We're all native humans. Anything else anyone wants to add or ask?
No, so I want to say that we want to thank the Yuma Association of Realtors, and this is their location. We're right next door.
Our
So
neighbors.
they lend us our podcast room that they just put together, and so we want to thank them as well for lending us a room. So this is a nice bigger room than my office, because that's where the podcast
Nice
was
setup.
before.
We wanted to elevate for everybody for the next
Yes.
season. We wanted to elevate season 2 of the STEM Road podcast.
2.0.
Yeah, so we want to thank our participants, our listeners out there, and please follow us and at Spotify, Amazon, where else? YouTube.
Yep. So the STEM Road podcast, you can find it on those 3 platforms. And then if you want to follow us at Elevate Southwest, we're on all kind of social media. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X. But yeah, go ahead and follow us. Also, we do a lot of updates on our website. If you are interested in internships, we have all the information for the interns on our website under the Students tab. Also, if you are a startup company, we also have information there on the roadmap and the different resources that we offer for startup businesses here in town. And stay tuned. There's a lot of
Yes.
exciting things happening, I think, all across the town, but, within our organization, we have a lot of exciting updates.
So please share, rate, and subscribe to our podcast. So thank you very much. And also, if you want to be a sponsor for one of these podcasts, please let us know. Please reach out to Melina at Elevate Southwest, and we'll get you going. And we'll always looking for sponsorships, as we are a 501c3. So we appreciate your time, and thank you for listening to the STEM Road podcast.